そんなのようなものが食えるのだよ。
なんでそういうこと言うんすか。頼みすぎなのだよ。それ。
何も知らんくせに知ったようなことを言わない。とりあえずその話は後だ。
Okonomiyaki has to be one of my favorite street foods besides takoyaki because it's anything you want. It's literally in the name, how you want it. And it's my first meal of the day. I'm so hungry. For okonomiyaki, we just need to start with the batter. For the batter, we're going to need 1 cup of all-purpose flour, followed by 1.5 cups worth of dashi. You can use the cheat dashi that we made countless times, or just warm water and bonito granules. We're also going to add 4 whole eggs to this, so crack all 4 eggs into this and make sure you give this a good whisk because you do want to break down all the eggs with your dashi and your flour. We're going to give this a nice pinch of kosher salt, followed by a 1/4 teaspoon of baking powder. This is going to give it that nice fluffiness. We're going to mix this until it's nice and smooth and make sure there aren't any big lumps of flour, otherwise it won't really cook out properly. Next, we're going to add in a little bit of this mountain yam. This is also called yagaimo. I think I'm pronouncing that right, but we're going to use about 3 inches worth of this guy. Go ahead and peel it and then start using a box grater to shred this up. Yes, it looks very questionable, but it is going to give it a really nice texture once we add it into the batter. This can also be replaced with something like potato starch if you would like to do that, but I love the texture that the mountain yam actually gives it. It makes it chewy, makes it creamy, makes it beautiful. And one of the main components for okonomiyaki batter is going to be the cabbage. I'm using Napa cabbage for this, but feel free to use whatever green head of cabbage that you would like. You just want to make sure when you're chopping this up, it isn't too big, otherwise it won't fully incorporate into the batter. You want these maybe the size of a penny or so, maybe even smaller than that. Dump all that cabbage into your batter and give this a nice whisk just to fully incorporate all of the cabbage with your batter. Realize that using a whisk is a bad idea because it gets stuck. Then take out a spatula like a smart person and go ahead and continue to mix this with the cabbage in the batter. Now, you would normally use agedama or the tempura bits that you can buy from the store or make on your own, but since I have all of this kake no tane, we're going to be using that. After quickly realizing that the knife does not work out that well, we're going to use our rolling pin to go ahead and crush this up and throw the rest of this into your batter. Again, totally optional, but really good. Now we're going to add in some fresh green onion. I really like green onion in my batter, so we're going to be using that. We're going to use half of the green onion in the batter, and the other half is going to be used as a garnish. And finally, about 2 tablespoons worth of red pickled ginger that's chopped up. A good substitute for the ginger is some nice chopped up kimchi if you have that as well. Go ahead and get everything tossed together, and then I'm going to top this with a little bit of aonori, which is chopped up seaweed, just for that little bit of extra kick. Now, your batter should really start coming together at this point. This is your base. You could honestly cook this as is if you really wanted to, and you'd be good to go. Now, here's the interesting part with okonomiyaki. Because it is essentially how you want it, put whatever you want in at this point. But because there wasn't bacon at the store, I'm going to be using some fresh mushrooms and some leftover pork shoulder we used for tacos the other night. Like I said, do whatever you want. Now for the good. I'm going to be using about 4 of these mushrooms. I know you see 6, but we only end up using 4. Cut the mushrooms in half, and then we're going to slice these pretty thin, like something you would use for pizza so they cook really nicely. Now, I also had some extra octopus laying around for my takoyaki, so we're going to pop this in there as well. Remember, we waste nothing here. So now for my flat top, I'm using this cheap electric flat top that I have, and feel free to use a regular saute pan if you would like. It's going to work just as well. Get your flat top nice and lubed up and make sure it's about a medium heat. Put on about half of the mushrooms we had cut, and then we're going to go ahead and steam these guys just a little bit to start cooking them. After about 3 or 4 minutes, they start to steam. Hit this with a liberal pinch of salt. You want to make sure they're salted really nicely. Get a little bit more grease on there before we dump on a pretty significant amount of our batter. What you're really going for is to make sure that your overall pancake is about ½ an inch thick and about 8 inches in diameter. I want this to be pretty big. I also picked out all of the taco because I really wanted the extra, and then piled on all of that pulled pork that I had. Well, most of the pulled pork that I had. Your goal is to make sure that that layer is mostly covered. Throw a lid on it, and we're going to steam this for about 5 minutes. After about 4 or 5 minutes, you should see some bubbles forming around the edge. Once you see that, try to loosen up your pancake just a little bit because, yes, after it's loosened up, we're going to lube this up and we're going to go for it. We're going to flip this bad boy. You want to be careful here. Give this a nice flip. Be gentle, and nailed it. If it kind of tore apart, perform a little bit of a surgery by tucking everything back in, and it should be fine. Pop your lid back on this. We're going to again steam this for another 4 or 5 minutes. After those 4 or 5 minutes, remove the lid, and we're going to go ahead and allow this to get crispy for another 3 or 4 minutes. Give it a look on the bottom and just check out what the pork looks like. If the pork looks good, we're going to give this a second flip to get that side crispy too. There's nothing left to do but happy dance because this already looks so good. After about 3 or 4 minutes to get those mushrooms crispy, we're gonna carefully, with both spatulas, place this onto your favoriteest plate. Oh, and don't forget the crispies. That's the good stuff. No okonomiyaki is complete without the sauce, and if you want to see how to make the sauce, check out the card above. You can be pretty generous with the okonomiyaki sauce, and it's totally up to you. You can also brush this on, but I chose not to. I'm also going to use the Kewpie mayo because it is delicious and it definitely belongs on the okonomiyaki. Finish it with a little bit of those green onions that we had saved for freshness, a little more aonori for the umami bomb, followed by some more pickled red ginger because it needs to be there, and then the dancing bonito flakes. Yes, you need those. And make sure Gandalf gets his share too. And just like that, we have our beautiful okonomiyaki made mostly with, yes, leftovers. And there it is, guys, our okonomiyaki from Kuroko Basketball, Sweetness and Lightning, probably 100 other anime because it is super common, but how do you deny how amazing and epic that looks right now? Look at it. Oh, yes. That bite right there. It's a big bite. It's really hot. Wow, the batter is crispy, but also chewy. The outside is crispy. The interior has a fluffy and chewiness to it from the mountain yam. Then you have the tanginess of the barbecue sauce and of the mayo. Then you have the flavor of the octopus or the taco that we put in there, plus the green onions and the ginger and the aonori. A little bit of fish flakes just up in the umami, just all over the place. It doesn't get much better than this. Have you ever had a savory pancake like this before? This is very common for me because I go out of my way to find it. My name is Chef PK, bringing anime and video game food to life. Get subscribed, and remember, keep playing with your food.
Dump and a jump. Tap when I speak, all cap with the speech till they caught up in the rapture. I'm so out of line with the phrase game. Let's take a break, been a long day.
Yes.